Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States and the President of the Republic of France.
Good afternoon. Please be seated. President Chirac and I have just concluded a very good discussion. Let me begin by saying how much the United States appreciate the President's strong leadership and the vital role France is playing all around the world. This is a time for the world's great democracies to reach out, not retreat. Many of the problems we face, including terrorism, international organized crime, and drugs, have no respect for borders. And the extraordinary opportunities we enjoy to shape a safer and more prosperous future for our people can be realized only if we stay engaged and if we work together. France and the United States are doing that, building on our historic alliance to meet the challenges of this new era. NATO is a cornerstone of that alliance. The President and I spent a good deal of time discussing its present and its future. In Bosnia, all of us can see NATO's critical role in ending a terrible war, in helping peace to take hold, in restoring stability to the heart of Europe. President Chirac and I reviewed the impressive progress our troops are making. We agreed the mission in Bosnia is moving forward steadily, surely, and as safely as possible. The Bosnia operation also demonstrates how well NATO can work with Europe's new democracies. Countries that were our Warsaw Pact adversaries less than a decade ago now are serving side by side with our troops for peace. This is a tribute to the decision that we made to reach out to them through the Partnership for Peace and by holding out the possibility of opening NATO's doors to new partners. We agreed that NATO must and will continue its steady progress toward enlargement and will strengthen its relationship with Russia. Let me say again, I told President Chirac how pleased we in the United States are with France's recent decision to move closer to the military side of NATO, a move that will strengthen our alliance, and a move that is very, very important to the United States. I also welcome the French efforts to build a stronger European defense identity within NATO. This will allow our European allies to deal more effectively with future security problems and spread the costs and risks of our leadership for peace, while preserving the basic structure of NATO. The Franco-American partnership extends well beyond NATO and indeed well beyond Europe. We've seen it in Cambodia, where our cooperation was vital to the success of democratic elections. We see it in Haiti, where French gendarmes are taking part in the international police force and playing a critical role. And in Africa, both our countries today are working to help people realize their tremendous economic and political potential. Today, President Chirac and I agreed to work together on preventive diplomacy in Africa to begin to head off conflicts before they start. Finally, we focused on a series of new threats to the safety of our citizens that demand a coordinated response: the spread of weapons of mass destruction, terrorism, international organized crime, drug trafficking, and of course the threats to the global environment. I welcome France's decision to end nuclear testing in the Pacific and its strong support for signing a zero-yield comprehensive nuclear test ban treaty this year. That is a project we can and we will work on together, and I believe we will succeed. As I said in the State of the Union, the comprehensive test ban treaty is one of my highest priorities as president. It will dramatically reduce the nuclear threat to every American and to people all over the world. Having France as a strong partner in this crusade significantly increases the prospects for success. Let me add also that we greatly appreciate France's offer to join and contribute to the Korean Peninsula Energy Development Corporation, the organization that will provide alternative energy to North Korea as it freezes and then dismantles its dangerous nuclear weapons programs. This past year, terrorists have taken lives of people in the very heart of Paris and in the very heart of America. The President and I agreed that our law enforcement officials can and must work even more closely together, sharing their experiences and their expertise until we succeed in defeating terrorism. We'll look at new ways to stop the flow of drugs to our streets and the spread of organized crime by cracking down harder on money laundering, and making it easier to extradite criminals. Finally, let me say again to the President, I want to thank you for your long and consistent leadership in Bosnia, for the sacrifices made by the French there, especially the French soldiers. And I want to tell you how much it means to me and to all Americans that today you presented the Legion of Honor to the families of the 3 American diplomats who were killed there in the search, ultimately the successful search for a peace agreement. This is symbolic of the friendship that the United States has with France. You are our oldest ally. I thought it quite appropriate today that we had your welcoming ceremony on the lawn of the White House in full view of the Jefferson Memorial, for Thomas Jefferson was our first envoy, the symbol of our friendship, our alliance with France. Now the United States has another forceful and energetic partner for peace and progress in President Chirac. Let me invite him to make his statement, welcome him again to the United States, and then we will take your questions. Mr. President.
President Clinton has more or less said everything that was to be said. Because anyway, everything that we said, he said wonderfully. It was all there. I just have some brief remarks. First of all, a sentiment of gratitude for the way I've been welcomed here. I've deeply appreciated this. Welcomed in the White House and in Congress. And secondly, there was a very fundamental agreement between us on most of the subjects that we talked about. And I think the most outstanding example is Bosnia, where the action undertaken by President Clinton has been decisive for a peace agreement that a few months before that no one could really have imagined. France was not absent, naturally, from this effort that led to this. And if the country manages to regain equilibrium and peace and come back to peace, this will be to a large extent due to the President of the United States. And I also wanted to mention 2 problems here, which, among others, I'm deeply concerned about. First of all, the question of the necessary reform of the organization of the Atlantic Alliance in order to adapt it to the needs of our time. We can, I think, expect the very best in terms of peace and so on from that organization, as long as the organization is adapted to the new circumstances. And secondly, my second point is the fact that we really must understand how absolutely essential it is that we should not disengage ourselves from development aid. Many countries in the world are in the process of being excluded, while they are precisely making very substantial efforts in order to try to move towards democracy and the market economy. So we must help them in that effort. That was out of the 2 messages that I wish to express today to the Congress. Now, lastly, I felt very deep emotion in awarding this morning to 3 wonderful women, wonderful ladies, the Legion of Honor in the name of the people of France and the Republic of France, the 3 widows of 3 great American diplomats who gave their very best efforts to help to achieve peace, and alas, lost their life in that country of Bosnia. Well, those are some thoughts I wanted to share with you, but now, of course, I'm ready to answer questions.
I will call on an American journalist, and then President Chirac will call on a French journalist, and then we'll alternate back and forth until we run out of time. Helen?
President, I have a question for each president. You have had a lot of trouble with the Republican Congress, and at the same time you seem to be telling the Democrats it's every man for himself, that you will not campaign for a Democratic Congress that is self-defeating. So I'd like you to comment on that. President Chirac, the UN says that 500,000 Iraqi babies have died of malnutrition since 1990. Are you trying to persuade President Clinton to ease up the sanctions on Iraq and Iran?
Okay, let me answer my question first. First of all, who am I to criticize people who ask and report questions? But no one who was in the conversation thought that that's what I said. I made it very clear that I want more Democrats elected to Congress. I will work for them. I worked hard for Senator Wyden in Oregon. I think you'd have to look a long time to find a president who's worked any harder to help his party's candidates for Congress than I have. I was asked a very precise question. I was asked whether I would go to the American people in 1996 and say, I cannot do anything as president. I cannot achieve anything as president unless you give me a Democratic Congress. And my answer to that was, and I will say again, we have had lots of experience with presidents trying that argument, and it has never worked. Not ever, not once. The American people want arguments presented to them about their lives and the ideas and the principles at stake. Will I campaign for Democrats? Yes, I have, and yes, I will. And I have organized my affairs so that I will be able to do quite a bit of that. Do I want more Democrats to get elected to Congress? Of course I do. How do I expect it to happen? Not by telling the American people I need it, but by saying, here's where we stand, here's what the differences are, here's what the future is. I hope you will choose the same choice that I'm making. I didn't say that. I said the coattails that come will come because people agree that we have better ideas for them and their lives. That's why people, that's the argument. And every time a president in the entire history of the country has tried to personalize the election and say, I need this for me, it has never worked. The American people vote based on what they believe in is best for themselves and their families. They exercise their judgment. So you have to put forward a set of ideas. When you put forward a set of ideas and all people say that they agree with these ideas, then you have a good chance to prevail. That's what happened in 92 in a way that I liked. That's what happened in 94 in a way that I didn't like. And that's what I hope will happen in 96 in a way that I like. I was responding to the literal way I was asked the question, not to my fidelity to my party or my involvement with the campaign efforts. Mr. President, you want to answer the question?